So, hello, welcome. This is my first ever video ever in the world of ever, and I want to talk about depression. And if you've clicked on here, then you're looking for the cure for depression. Am I right? And if you're already looking at the timestamp and going, "Oh my God, I can't be bothered watching this," then what are you doing here? Go and watch spot squeezing videos on YouTube, you know? If you can't be bothered watching a video, then you don't want to cure your depression. And by the way, I'm not going to cure your depression. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, thank God. I'm not a therapist. I'm just a dude who was depressed for on and off since I was a teenager, but solidly for 5 years. And I had what the clinical establishment would refer to as treatment-resistant depression. And I'm here to tell you that I'm living proof that you can heal your depression yourself. You don't need medication. You don't need anything other than yourself. And before we get too into it, I'm going to tell you the cure for depression. You ready? There is no cure for depression. The cure for depression is the depression. I'm going to say that again, in case you missed it. Ready? The cure for depression is the depression. Just let that sink in. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is you don't have a disease. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not different. You're not some kind of mutation. You're not an alien. You're not a freak. You don't have a mental illness that makes you different from any other human being on earth. I'm going to switch mental illness and say mental health. I'm going to switch it again and say health of the mind. Does that sound better? As soon as we use the term mental illness, people go like this. Don't want to know about it. Oh God, that bloke's got a mental illness. I don't know what to do. Do you know why? Because it makes us vulnerable that if another human being with a brain just like ours has a mental illness, then we're capable of having a mental illness. And that scares the shit out of us. So I think that's probably a conversation for another time. I'll get to it. I'm going to make a million videos. But if we refer to it as the health of the mind, then isn't it our duty, just as we go to the gym and keep our bodies healthy, should we not keep our minds healthy? Isn't the mind the thing that's in charge of the body and everything else? Our entire experience. Do we walk around the world just in a body with no consciousness, with no awareness? No, we don't. We have consciousness and we have awareness. And that comes from an organism called the brain. And if there's something wrong in the brain, then there's something wrong in the body, and there's something wrong in the experience. Okay? We are going to get a little bit controversial here. Any given experience we have, there's three. The physical body, okay? The solid world, we can touch it. You can't see this wall, but there's a wall here, I'm touching it. I'll just touch myself. Ignore that. We have the mental experience, which is how we perceive our reality in our unique individual minds. And we have the spiritual experience, okay? If you have heard of the Holy Trinity in the Christian religion, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, this is what it refers to. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Okay? Mind, body, spirit. You used to see it on, candles in the 90s. Good for your mind, body, and your spirit, or soul. It's the same thing. And I'm not even going to explain that. I'll do that in another video. You don't need to take my word for it. It's up to you what you believe. But the reason that the cure for depression is the depression is because it's there for a reason, dude. We're not born depressed. We don't just suddenly wake up and go, oh, I'm depressed. We might notice that we wake up one day and go, oh, I'm depressed. But there's been a skew in our perception in that we bypass the thing that made us depressed, okay? There's a reason for it. You're not depressed for no reason. Don't believe anyone. Don't believe a scientist, a psychologist, whatever, a neurologist. I love all that stuff, by the way. I'm not anti-science. I'm pro-science, and I'm pro-psychology, and I'm pro-neurology. I find it fascinating. But it all links with these other three realms: mental, physical, and spiritual. Okay? And if you're so ingrained in one establishment, you're probably going to ignore the others unless you yourself have an experience of the other realm. Okay? So, I also want to talk about medication. I'm not anti-medication. Some people need it. If you need it, you need it. You know? If you cut yourself, you stick a Band-Aid on it. Okay? And that absorbs the blood for a while, and then, you know, you take it off and you let the air get to it and your body heals. Okay? That's how I view medication. If you need it for a while, do it. But don't rely on it. Would you keep a Band-Aid on a cut for the rest of your life just because you had a cut? No. What heals it? Taking the Band-Aid off, getting rid of it, letting the air get to it. Your body heals naturally. It wants to heal, okay? So does your mind. That's what depression is. It's going, hey, I've got a cut in my mind and I need to let the air get to it. I need to heal it, okay? There are deeper things like trauma, which would be the equivalent of having a stone stuck in your cut and it just constantly scabbing over, and it's trying to heal, but it never quite heals because you've not pulled the stone in, okay? Oh, sorry. I'll do another video on trauma. For now, we're just going to stick with depression, okay? And what I've realized about depression is that it is unilateral. Is that the right word? It is ubiquitous to the experiencer of it, regardless of the cause of it, okay? So I did a project a few years ago. I've not quite finished it yet. It's in the making. On depression. I'm a photographer, and I went around and I did a portrait project, and I photographed some people, started off with friends, and I just asked them 3 questions. And I knew a lot of these guys' personal stories of what had happened to them and what had caused their depression. And I interviewed them because I knew they were depressed. Clinically depressed, you would call it. And I didn't want to share these people's stories. It's not my part to, you know, that's a very personal thing. But each of these people had very different experiences in life. Something that had happened seemingly to them or to their lives, which caused depression, completely different to each other and completely different to myself. My depression was because of the end of a relationship. I came to figure out later that I was in a relationship with someone who had a narcissistic personality disorder. I'll do a video on that too. And, you know, I had friends where someone had died, someone was in permanent paralysis, their mind deteriorating, you know, a family member, someone who had lost a relationship, someone who had almost been sent to prison for something they didn't do, all these different reasons. But in interviewing them and hearing their stories, they felt exactly the same. It affected them, like, just identically. it affected their lives identically. They went through the same feelings, they went through the same cycles, they went through the same thought patterns. And that's why depression links us all together, because we're all capable of experiencing it. And a lot of people do and are going through it at ridiculous rates. People are just starting to see this now, like, oh my God, so there's so much depression around. I noticed this like 5 years ago, and it was probably existed 5 years before that, and 5 years before that. It's true that when we are aware of something in ourselves, we probably attract other people that are going through a similar thing. It's a vibrational thing. But what I'm saying is, I realized quite quickly that all of my friends were depressed, pretty much 99% of them. And I didn't even know it until I started talking about it. And I'd learned so much from these people. And they were, each of them on weird and wonderful drugs. Oh, I have depression and I'm on this. Oh, I have depression and I'm on this. Oh, I have depression and I do this. And not one of them did it work for. None of them. They didn't take this medication, take this little magic pill and go, oh, I'm happy again. And the reason you can't medicate it is because it's not just a physical experience. This is going back to the Holy Trinity thing. Any experience we have affects the other two realities. So if we lost our legs in an accident, that's a physical thing, right? That happens in our physical reality. Do you think that's going to affect you mentally? Maybe a little bit, yeah? Do you think you're probably going to go through a stage of grieving the loss of this thing in your life? And so that's physical and mental. And do you think if you went through this grieving process and probably a shitload of depression, say for a year, 2 years, could be the rest of your life, if you had the chance, say on your deathbed, to look back on that experience, would you not go, wow, that was my life. That was a spiritual experience. Okay? Bear with me if you're not on the same page yet. Let's say you are a man who your dream is to climb Everest. Okay? You just got to do it. You never get around to it. You always put it off. You procrastinate. I'll do it next year. Oh, I don't have enough money. And then you lose your legs. Okay? And then you go through this grieving process. And then one day, at the end of it, which is acceptance. If you're not familiar with the grieving process, I would look up Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. She interviewed terminally ill patients, people who knew they were going to die. And she outlined 5 stages of emotion that each of these people went through, which was denial, anger, what's the other one? I've forgotten the bloody word. Bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. Okay? And you don't have to go through them in that order. That you go through it in cycles. And everyone's different. You could be angry to begin with. You could be depressed to begin with. But what links them all is they all came to a state of acceptance. They accepted that they were going to die. Okay, bear that in mind. So, say the man who wanted to climb Everest, lost his legs, went through the grieving process, and actually came to a point of acceptance, and just went, oh my God, I've not been accepting my reality. I have no legs. That does not mean I cannot climb Everest. Right, I've got to do this. Maybe this happened to me to make me climb bloody Everest. I had 2 legs before, I've got nothing now. I'm still going to bloody do it. Maybe he invents some kind of device personalized for him where he can climb Everest. Say he does that, okay? Say he's the first man ever to climb Everest who doesn't have any legs. Say he raises money for other people who have lost their limbs. Say he goes on to manufacture prosthetic limbs for people to do exactly that, sports prosthetics. Okay? Is he not going to look back on that and go, wow, that was a spiritual experience. This happened to me for a reason. I wouldn't be where I am today, helping all these people, if I hadn't have lost my legs. Do you see what I'm saying now with the three? Physical, mental, spiritual. Everything that happens is all of those things. If you have a mental experience, it affects you physically. Yeah? Let me guess. If you're depressed, you're probably not eating, or you're eating loads. You're probably not sleeping, or you're sleeping loads. Your skin might come up. My skin would come out in crazy like rashes and stuff. Still does. If I'm down, if I'm really depressed. How about when someone is happy? Do they not glow? Do they not physically look amazing because they're shining out this mental vibration of happiness? When you see a child doing that, like, let's say you have a spiritual experience. I can't say whether you have or you haven't, or what. I can only talk about my own. I've had several, and each one has affected me mentally and physically. You know, each one affects the other, so just bear that in mind. Now, how are we going to cure this bloody depression? What's he on about? That the cure for depression is the depression. Something has happened in your life that made you forget yourself. Something happened to disconnect you from yourself. It's not up to me to tell you what that is. It's up to you to find out what that is. You might not do it overnight. You know, I'm not just going to say these words and you go, oh yeah, that thing happened. Or it might take a long time to figure out what that thing is. It doesn't matter. Just keep going. Keep going. Every experience is leading towards you finding that thing out. Or you could be sitting here shouting at the screen going, dude, I know I'm fucking depressed. This thing happened to me. Yeah, that doesn't help me. I know why it happened. It happened. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm bloody depressed. Okay, then explore that thing. I don't mean be a masochist and beat yourself up. You already are doing that. I mean, gradually look at it, explore it, research it, write things down. Get all your emotion out whenever you need to. Okay? So, I'm going to talk about a little bit of my personal experience and how I came to be healed, I would say. The reason I can say I'm healed is because I had depression every day for 5 years and now I don't. And the reason I don't is because I don't have anything to be depressed about. Okay? I still get down, I still get sad, but it's normal. It's not like, oh my god, I want to kill myself. We're allowed to feel sad, we're allowed to feel down, okay? And we're allowed to be morbidly depressed and want to kill ourselves. Don't judge yourself, okay? These things are normal. You are normal. There's nothing wrong with feeling like everything's shit and you want to kill yourself, okay? It's fine. If we didn't look at death, then how could we look at life? All right? And if you're anxious and scared of that, then you're not living. You cannot live without looking at the non-existence of you, okay? It's fine. But, so I went through several billion different therapies. I've done like regressional hypnosis, I've done CBT, I've done psychotherapy, what else? Spiritual healing, Reiki, medication, EMDR therapy. I'll definitely do a video on that. It got to the point where I was actually diagnosed with bipolar, and that experience is enough to send anyone insane. You go to the doctors, you go, hey, this is happening, I feel like this, and they go, oh, okay, we'll send you to a psychiatrist, and then they go, let me just write that down, They look at you like a guinea pig, and you're expressing everything of who you are, and everything of who you are is saying, help me, and they just go, yes, you have bipolar, type 2, okay. Okay, we're going to put you on this drug. We don't really know what it does. We don't know how it'll affect you, but come back in 3 months and let me know how. And then you just go home and you go, oh, okay, I have bipolar. Well, that explains a lot. Cool, okay, I can get on with my life now. And then something catches up with you and you go, oh, I have a mental illness. What the fuck do I do about that? How do you even tell your friends this thing? How do you tell your family this thing? You already don't want to attract attention to yourself and how you're feeling, but now you've got this massive excuse to go, oh yeah, I've got this thing, that's why. Once you put a label on it, once you have a diagnosis, you're kind of screwed, because now you have an excuse to feel how you feel, but it's not a supportive, good excuse. It's an excuse for you to not do anything about it and go, oh, well, I have this, and the general consensus is that I should be on medication for the rest of my life. So, yeah, I'll just ignore how I feel and I'll just pump myself full of drugs to numb that pain. Isn't that what we do with alcohol and drugs and, like, binge watching TV shows and masturbation and any kind of addiction is to numb our senses away from how we're feeling, okay? I'm telling you, you need to go towards how you're feeling, okay? You need to go towards the pain. And that's not going to make a lot of sense to you until you do it. But you'll get to a point where you cannot escape it. I got to that point. I got to it several times and I went, I don't know what to do. I need real help here. And I went and found help and it didn't work. And I went and found more help and it kind of worked. But then it came back and then I'd go and find somewhere else. But it got to the point where I was literally just have never felt so alone in my life. I had this weird diagnosis. I was about to get a house, dream house. It'd taken me 9 months to find somewhere. I'd been living on couches and friends' spare rooms for 10 months or something. Found a house 3 doors down from my favourite cafe in the world, who my friends own, 3 doors up from my best friend. It was perfect. But there was one housemate in there who was just a bit weird. And everyone else I got on great with. And I just thought, I need a safe space to go to heal. I know I'm totally depressed and I need a safe space, and this was going to be it, but I don't have time for weird housemates, so I gave it up. And I tried to tell or just speak to all my friends about this diagnosis, and no one really understood. People were either scared of it, or people did the beautiful thing of just treating you normally and exactly as they would. But neither of those things work. When someone's scared of you, you're like, why are you scared of me? That's just going to make me more isolated than I already feel. That's what a diagnosis does, it isolates you. And when people treat you the same, it's awesome because you're like, oh, I can just relax. But wait, why are you treating me normally? Because I'm not normal. What the hell? Don't treat me normal. And wherever you go, you get one of those two types of people. And I was like, I called my mum up and I told her all this stuff. And bless her, she's full of love, but she just doesn't understand these kinds of things. When I put the phone down, I was sitting in my favourite park in Bristol, where I would always go and always be happy. It was not happening this day. It hadn't happened for months. I've been going there just like some kind of ghost, wandering around, being weird. And I was like, okay, I'm going to refuse this house, don't want it. I hate my job. I'm not being respected. Everything I try doesn't work. The doctors, the NHS, the entire establishment is there to help me, hasn't helped me and cannot help me. I walked into, I think I tried 2 medication. The first one was horrendous for 3 months. 3 weeks. It gave me, I forget the term for it, but I had this over my whole body, 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I couldn't sit still, I couldn't sleep, I couldn't eat because my body was going like this. I just felt like a head on like a weird vibrating machine. And they gave me these other drugs to counteract it. They stopped working after 3 days. I tried to call the doctors, no one answered. Then it was the weekend. It got to the point where I hadn't slept in 3 days. I was just like, and I called the out of hours doctors and explained the situation. They went, come in. They gave me like diazepam or something. Here, take them. And I was like, you meant to take 2 a day. It worked for about a day, maybe 2 days. I don't know if that's psychosomatic, like a placebo effect. Oh, I'm taking this thing and it's going to help me. I can relax now. Like semi. I couldn't relax. The only thing that relaxed me is jogging. And I had a route, and I spent weeks, 2 or 3 months building up to being able to jog for 5 miles. And it took me ages, When I was on this stuff, the first night I went jogging, I jogged for 10 miles. I got back, and I was like, okay, I'm still shaking. What do I do? I'll just keep jogging. I jogged for another 10 miles. It's the same route. I did 20 miles in the night. That's insane. So I did that every night. But my point is, after 3 days, the diazepam stopped working, and I hadn't slept again in about 3 days. I went to a 24-hour chemist and said, do you have anything that will help me sleep? She went, yeah, sure. Are you on any of the medication? Yep. And I can't remember the name of it. It was an antipsychotic that they give to people with schizophrenia. I told her that, and her eyebrows went up. And I went, I'm also on diazepam, and her eyebrows went up even higher. She went, if you're on diazepam, how are you not sleeping? Are you taking enough? You're meant to take 2 a day, yeah? And I went, I've taken 6. Does it look like it's working? And she was like, okay, well, I can't give you anything else because you'll die. And I was like, okay, fuck. Anyway, I was meant to be on this stuff for 6 weeks or something. Because then the side effects are meant to wear off. And for every second of every day, I was going, this is not right. This is horrendous. I feel insane. I can't go anywhere. I can't even sit in a cafe and speak to someone because my insides are going like this. Hi, can I have a latte, please? But you just sat there going, So, yeah, I came off everything and I burnt my medication. And I called the doctor up and I said, yeah, I'm not taking that shit anymore. And she went, oh, what were your symptoms again? And I'm like, I told her, and she was like, yeah, You probably shouldn't have been taking them for that long. I looked this up, and if I'd have continued taking that medication, this crazy jitteriness would have become permanent. Thanks, NHS. Cocksuckers. So I went to see my appointed psychiatrist, and he was like, "Hey, how you doing? Hey!" You know, they're all so happy because they get paid £1 million a year to be glorified drug dealers. I didn't realise that yet. I was still like, "Oh, this guy's nice. Yeah, he's good." Told him the thing, and he put me on some more medication. Oh, sorry, I came off the first medication for a week, and I felt amazing because I felt normal. I was like, oh, I'm just me, I'm not... God, that was insane. It's not permanent. I'm not crazy. I'm not jittery. It was just that crazy medication. But I thought, okay, I'll try some more. My friend who's a nurse and is studying to be a nurse, and specifically in psychiatric care, who also has depression, she put me on to trusting this medication thing, because I'd never really done it before. I didn't believe in it, but I was desperate. And I was like, is this just pride? Do I have a genuine genetic condition? A genuine psychiatric condition that I was born with and I can do nothing about, and I'm meant to be on this medication? That's what she believes. I didn't, but I was willing to try it. So she convinced me to go on this other medication that she was actually on, and said it's worked wonders for me. I took that. After 2 days, I wanted to kill myself. I don't mean that dramatically. I mean, I was having suicidal ideation. I was fantasizing on ways in which I could kill myself. But I caught myself. Somehow I just went, wait, you didn't feel like this last week at all. You went on this medication, and now you're fantasizing about suicide. I'm not even going to give it 3 to 6 weeks. I'm not even going to give it 3 more minutes. I came off it. I burnt the medication in the back garden. But I still had this craziness. This like absolute depression 1 minute and absolute elation the next. So basically, I had to make a choice. I was like, I quit my job, I quit the house. I needed to just go somewhere and be safe and heal. And my options were, I commit myself to a psychiatric hospital, or I go home, back up north, and live with my parents at 35, and just heal. I knew exactly what it would be like. I knew how challenging it would be living with your parents again and all that, and turning into a teenager and blah, blah, blah. But I didn't give a shit. It was psychiatric hospital or home. And I went home. And I got myself some therapy. But basically, I looked at everything. I'm a big researcher. I'm a big absorber of information. So bipolar, I looked at every possible cure for that. Medication, talk therapy. Oh, I joined some bipolar groups as well. I've got so many videos to do, man. As you can see, my brain runs off on tangents, so I need to organize these things, and I will. But in the end, I looked at really extreme treatments, like there was one where they like literally cut a hole in your skull and attached like diodes to your brain, and like electrically stimulate them. Are you fucking insane? And this doctor was sitting there going, yes, so when people have bipolar, the first thing they need to do is accept that I have bipolar so that I can experiment on them. Fuck off, mate. Fucking Frankenstein. But in the end, I looked at all of my symptoms. I watched a ton of YouTube videos. I read a ton of books, ton of articles. And I realized that I did not have bipolar. I had PTSD from narcissistic abuse. So I looked up everything to do with PTSD and trauma, and the thing that seemed to feel right and had the best statistics was EMDR therapy, which is eye movement desensitization reprogramming. It had something like a 90% success rate for, like soldiers that have come back and watched their mates being blown up and they're just fucked. And they go for EMDR, and they show signs of improvement in the first 7 sessions, after 7 sessions. I had 13 sessions all in all. It's one of the hardest things I've ever done. There was no comfort, there was no real, I won't say there was no compassion or empathy, but it wasn't a therapy I was used to. It was so carry on. You don't get time to talk about how you're feeling. You just push, and then you kind of, the hour's up and you walk out and you go, what the fuck just happened? And you have no one to talk to about it. I almost quit because the therapist was pushing me to go to a place that I did not want to go to. Everything in me was fighting against it. Everything. But he spotted why we needed to go towards there. If you're fighting against something, if there's a thing that you will not talk about, that you're like, it's absolutely pointless, there is nothing I can do about that one thing, that's where you need to go. Like, directly towards it. That's the best advice I could ever give you, okay? Go towards the pain. When you do, you get to a point where you just like, oh, that makes perfect sense. And you cross a threshold of healing that you've never really considered before. It's a new reality. But you had to go into the unknown to get there. It took me several months after this therapy to fully heal. Different things. It brought up so much to do with my family, my upbringing, my childhood, my parenting. And in the end, I healed sitting on a bench in a pub car park on my own. I felt like shit when I woke up that morning. Horrendous. And I was so worked up that I was like, I need to scream. I need to just shout. I need to go somewhere. So I drove out down, I lived kind of down, outskirts of the country. Drove down a country lane in my car and just screamed my head off. And I screamed until I couldn't really scream anymore. It didn't heal me, it didn't cure anything. I didn't feel better, but I didn't feel worse. So I went to the pub and I just had a pint. I'm not really a big drinker, but I like this nice country pub and you can sit outside. And did that, and I was reading an article on the things that were on my mind. And I'd read what it said a million times. I knew it in and out. I knew it conceptually. I knew it enough to explain it to someone else, okay? But these 2 lines stuck out to me. And I read them so many times. As I say, I understood them conceptually, but I didn't feel them until I felt them, okay? The first line was, and this might not mean anything to you, this has just meant something to me at that time. The first line was, healing isn't linear, it's cyclical, however you want to say it. It runs in cycles. And for me, I was so angry at myself and depressed at myself for still feeling angry and depressed after 5 years about this one stupid thing. It was like, why am I still suffering with this? I'm reading that one thing. Healing isn't linear, it's cyclical. Was like, oh, I don't have to judge myself for feeling this way. It still didn't quite sink in yet. In fact, I think that was the second thing I read. The first thing I read was something about someone with pronounced narcissistic traits or narcissistic personality disorder. It is a genuine mental illness. Their brain hasn't formed properly or healthily something happened in their childhood in which their brain didn't develop like a normal, healthy person. And as I say, I knew that conceptually. I'd read it a million times. I'd never gone, oh, right, yeah, they have a genuinely mental illness. It's not just me. I'm not mental. Probably am mental, but they're mental. And the way they treated me was mental because they have this thing. So that was the first thing. And then the next thing was healing isn't linear, it's cyclical. So I didn't have to blame myself for feeling this way anymore. And with that, it was like the sunshine came out. I was smiling. The other things that led me, I believe, towards a monumental threshold of healing was not just the EMDR therapy, was not just reading these things. I took a year off of life. I quit my job. Money ran out pretty fast. If you can do that, if you have the support, do it. Don't mess around. This is your health. Take it seriously. If you need to take a year off and not work because you can't bloody work, take it off. If you can't, just do what you can, okay? I understand we're all in different situations. I'm very grateful that I could do that. And during that year off, my sister got a dog, and she'd go out to work all day, so I just go up and get the dog and take it for walks. And I try and find new places to take this dog for walks. I found all these new amazing forests that I'd never even knew existed around me. It's beautiful. When you're in nature, you become meditative. Nature calms you, trees calm you, plants calm you, silence calms you, not seeing people calms you. And when you're in charge of another living being, like a dog, when you're responsible for something, you stop thinking about yourself all the time. You start going, oh, there's other things in life other than how I'm feeling. Okay? Really important. Get a pet. It can be a goldfish. It can be a bird, a lizard. Don't keep birds in cages. I hate it. But it can be a dog, it can be a cat. It can just be an insect. Anything that puts you responsible for another thing's well-being, for another thing's life. Guess what? You start treating that thing how you should be treating yourself. Another thing is, my sister also had a baby who would come. My mum would look after him every day, so I'd see this little beautiful baby every day. To be honest, when I first got home, I didn't give a shit. I was like, yeah, I've got a nephew, it's awesome and everything, but I'm just too fucked. And then my mum said to me one day, why don't you become a part of his world? And I did. He's like my best mate ever now. He's 3 years old. Literally my best mate on earth. When you spend time around children, there is no judgment. There's just innocence. There's just happiness. You see how you used to be. And when you're around that, and you get involved with their amazing, innocent happiness, they wake up happy, man. It's just, it's intoxicating. Another really important thing, if you have kids, spend time with your kids being a kid, okay? Take them out, take them to the forest, take them to the park, play with their Lego, go on adventures with them around the house. It's incredible. If you don't have kids, spend time with kids, spend time with your friends' kids if you have nieces or nephews. Just be around children as much as possible. Trust me, you'll see a difference. The other thing is meditation. I need to do an entire video on meditation. I'm going to do several thousand videos on meditation. Just meditate. Don't worry about what that word means to you. Don't worry if you've tried it and it hasn't worked, or you think it's ridiculous and woo-wah hippie bullshit. Meditation is time with yourself. It is establishing a relationship with yourself, which establishes how you are feeling. Okay? You just spend some time in being quiet, breathing on your own. You'll know exactly how you're feeling. You'll feel everything in your body. You'll know, the majority of the time is like overthinking and thoughts racing through our minds, and there's all these techniques. Oh, watch it float like a cloud. Whatever works for you, man. But you get to, when you hit that point of what meditation is, you separate from all of that. You step out, and instead of having this subjective experience of, oh my god, this thought, attack, you have an objective experience, third person. It's like you step out of your thoughts and you just observe them, you just look at them. Oh yeah, that's there for that reason. That's why I'm thinking that. Alright, so that's why I'm feeling that. Oh my god! And then you come out of it, you have the biggest smile on your face ever. You're like, oh! Literally. Meditate, man. Meditate. Walk in nature every day. I would say, like, exercise, eat healthy, all that stuff is so important. But I tried everything. When I had bipolar, I read some correlation between that and gluten. Alright, I'll cut gluten out of my diet and try that for, 6 months. And I did it. Didn't make a bloody difference. I'll go jogging. I'll go and lift some weights. Didn't make a difference. I ate, salad every day. I cut meat. Didn't make a difference. Medication didn't make a difference. Therapy didn't really make a difference. Every experience I've had has all added to something to where I am now. But nothing went, this is it. You're depressed, mate? Change your diet. No. You're depressed, mate? Do some bloody exercise. No. What heals your depression is knowing oneself. So however you do that is the way you do it. For me, it's walking in nature. I love forests. I just love it. For me, it's being around my nephew, taking a dog for a walk, doing yoga, and meditating. Yoga literally changed my life. I'm not good at it. I'm not like some... But I do it, and I've started doing it every day. I've done it on and off for about 8 years. I still couldn't even get my bloody heels to the floor in Downward Dog Man 8 years later. I can do it now because I actually started giving a shit. And for me, that is meditation. I do yin yoga, which is you just hold the poses for longer. And it's not like, doing warrior for like 10 minutes and going, shaking like a shitting dog. No. You start off with just floor-based movements, simple stretches, but you hold them. And you just breathe. And there comes a release. And when you spend that time, I just do half an hour on a morning. You spend half an hour with yourself, not talking, not seeing anyone, just stretching, just moving. It becomes mindfulness. And what mindfulness is it's the opposite of craziness. So when we're crazy and just got all these thoughts and oh my god, and we're in stress, that's because the amygdala is firing off cortisol. It's fight, flight, or freeze response. It comes from us, hunting or being hunted. We're under stress, so these chemicals get released in our brain, which is cortisol from the amygdala, and you're in high alert, and you fight, flight, or freeze. We don't need to do that anymore. There's not much. We don't need to hunt for our food, and there's not many tigers on the street. So our stresses today are like, I don't have enough money. I hate my job. What am I going to do about this? I don't know what my purpose is. these are stresses, and they release the same hormone. When you do mindfulness, the insula kicks in, and it releases other chemicals which not only reduces the cortisol, but it increases feelings of peace and tranquility and equanimity. Whatever works for you. I'm not saying go and do yoga, I'm just saying it works for me. And something will happen. If you do these things gradually, just gradually, really be really gentle with yourself. My general consensus is, I have this, I'll go and do this about it. I'm really proactive. That's not always the best way to be. Just be gentle, gradual. Don't judge yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Don't think that you must do these things. You don't. Just do what you feel like on the day, and gradually you will develop a relationship with yourself, which means developing a relationship with who you are, how you feel, everything in your past, how you felt about that, how they've led you to this, and you'll get to a place of non-judgment, of connection to you, to Source, which is you, and everything else is beautiful. This is my only advice. Get to know you, establish and develop a relationship with yourself. The last thing I did was an amazing experience. So, when I first came back up north, I drove to the lakes and went, I'm going to climb a bloody mountain. I know I'm depressed, but I just have to climb this mountain. I drove to it, the weather was bad, and the sky was all like ominous. I was on my own, and I got to the foot of the mountain, and I was like, I can't do that. I'm too depressed. So I just drove back. It's like 3 hours drive for nothing. This time, after I'd been through, I'd gone home. I'd gone to a safe place to heal. Step number 1. I'd researched the crap out of my symptoms and how I felt and other people's experiences of it, and I came to a conclusion which not only was like, oh, that's maybe good. It felt right. I was like, I feel this is right. For me, it was trauma, PTSD, and then I found a subsequent therapy for that, and I went and gave it a go. I still hadn't healed at this point. It was really hard. They all added up. I'm talking in the space of a year, man. All these things. My first point of healing was changing my environment, quitting my job, getting the hell out of Bristol, getting away from people who weren't helping me, coming to a place where I felt safe, figuring out what was wrong with me, going towards a therapy which was specifically for that thing, doing that, walking in nature, caring for an animal, spending time with children, reading a couple of lines which just changed my entire perspective, and I'd read them a billion times before, didn't matter. There and then they meant everything. And then on New Year's Eve, I drove back to this mountain. New Year's Eve, out to the lakes in the middle of nowhere, mental, just me and the dog. And I drove out there thinking no one would possibly be there because it's insane. I pitched my tent in the dark. There was no other tents, no other vans, caravan, nothing. I was like, it literally is just me out in the middle of nowhere. I think there's a pub at the end of the valley. I'll go there, I'll sit, have a pint, or read a book, just have an early night. There might be a couple of old blokes there. It might not even be open. Drove there, opened the door. It was rammed. There was like 500 people there. Music, dancing, dogs running around everywhere. I met this group of people. They were like, saw my dog and like, oh, come over, join our table. We played like card games. We played beer pong. We drank a load of cider. And I said, hey, are you guys climbing the mountain tomorrow? And they went, yeah, do you want to come? I was like, yes, please. I don't have a map or anything. I'm on my own. Woke up. we climbed the mountain. I was hungover. I went to a really dark place. As every step of this mountain, it was just straight up. There's no winding, beautiful. It was just straight up. Halfway up, I stopped and I threw up. The top half, it turned into like that shale stuff where like it's like 1 foot in, 4 steps back, 1 foot in, 4 steps back. It was a slog, man. We separated out. You know, people got there. There was people behind me. I was just on my own. And I just went to a really dark place. I was like, what the hell am I doing? Obviously, I had liquid depression in me, beer, cider, I think it was. And I was thinking back to me driving there to 6 months before and not being able to do it, all these things. I just kept going. Like, just head down, just watch your feet. Don't look behind you. You don't need to look behind you. You know what the view is. Don't look up. It looks too hard. Like, if I keep looking up at the shale, knowing how many bloody steps I've got to take and slide back every time, I'm not going to be able to do it. Just look at my feet. 1 foot in front of the other. This is a good analogy for presence. Past doesn't serve you unless it does. Unless there's a specific thing that makes you go, oh, that's not going to help me, is it? Looking too far in the future. Anxious, anxiety, you don't need to. Just be present, man. Even if it hurts, which it doesn't when you actually find real presence. But I just looked at my feet, 1 foot in front of the other, got to the top, sat down, turned around, all these clouds came in, and then the sun just seemed to like, you know, there's rays of light that come through the clouds? They were just like there. And the group that I was with, most of them had already got to the top, and they'd spent a bit of time, and then like, right, we're going back down, and I was just laid there just going, oh my god. And I just saw this one guy who was really cool just walking, and I just saw the silhouette of him on the edge of this mountain. All you could see is cloud and golden rays of sunshine just through him, and then I just saw him like gradually disappear, and at that point I just went, I did it. When I walked to the edge, and I'm not kidding, man. It was like Moses. The clouds parted, and I just saw this land with this golden sunlight literally spreading over it. It was like patchwork, you know, like little Roman things, you know, the Roman walls, little farmsteads all the way along the valley. I was like, I did it. And it's New Year's Day. This is 2018. What a way to start the year. And oh my god, I'm healed. I'm not depressed anymore. I have nothing to be depressed about. I understand everything. Everything that happened to me was my choice. Things didn't happen to me, things happened. And it was my response to them which caused my depression. Because I had no relationship with myself to know any different. I was a victim. Everything's happening to me. I think one of the main things that happens when you do heal your depression is you step out of victim mode. You're no longer a victim. Nothing's woe me. Everything just is. And you have a choice how to be in any situation, in any experience. Our feelings, how we feel has very little to do with how we feel. I'll explain that. Say you wake up and you feel like shit. You're like, ugh, today's shit. If you keep thinking that way, that one thought spirals. You add thoughts to it. It adds momentum. Suddenly, you don't just wake up and feel like shit. You're like, my job's shit, my life's shit, I've got no money, it's shit. My relationship's shit. Or I've got no girlfriend, I've got no boyfriend, it's shit, 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 shit. When actually, think of yourself as a baby. If you wake up and you feel bad, check these things. You may have overslept or not had enough sleep. You may be hungry, or you may have eaten too much, or you may just need a shit. Okay? Check these things first. They are the only things physically in the body that tells your brain, hey, I'm not happy here, something's wrong. They have nothing to do with your emotions, do they? But how often do they affect your emotions? How ratty are you when you're tired? Like loose temper, like no time for anyone, just because you didn't sleep well the night before. How is that anyone else's fault? It's not, is it? So don't have a go at them. If you're hungry, same thing. You lose your shit. Same as a kid. Or if you need the toilet, man. It could be as simple as that. Go and do a dump. See how you feel afterwards. Dump could cure your depression. And the fascinating thing is that, you know how I just said that one thought of everything's shit can add momentum? It's like adding an engine to a train and then lots of carriages. Adds weight, it adds speed, adds velocity. And suddenly your whole day is terrible, your whole life sucks. This exact same principle works for positive thoughts. So if you feel like crap when you wake up, just notice it, check those 3 things, and then go find one thing to be grateful for. Just one thing, man. One thing. There is always something to be grateful for. Always. It could just be like, oh, my bed's really comfy. I'm grateful for that. I feel comfy. Or I'm grateful I have a roof over my head. I'm grateful I have a nephew, or a dog, or a brother, or a sister, or a mum, or a dad, or a friend, or a girlfriend. I'm grateful the sun's shining. It's beautiful. How nice is that? Okay, I'm going to give you an example. The sunshine is absolutely beautiful. It makes me feel good. It looks good. Oh, look at this. I have this amazing succulent thing. I'm grateful for this. It's green. It's beautiful. It's kind of weird and alien. I've got this amazing, like, massive pine cone. I've got, mint tea. Forgot about my mint tea. I'm grateful for mint tea. See what just happened? I found gratitude for one thing, the sun. It just added like 5 things to it. Oh, I feel good about my life. I feel great today. So, you see that depression is a physical experience, it's a mental experience, and it's a spiritual experience. Don't fight it. The reason you're suffering is because you are fighting it. You're going, why am I depressed? I don't want to feel like this. I want to feel anything but this. Even to the point of going, I want to take my own life. Not because I want to take my own life, not because I don't love my life and the people that are in it. It's just because I don't want to feel this way anymore. That's such a disconnection from yourself, dude. And you can regain it at any point. At death's door, you can regain that connection with yourself. And it happens when you accept that you are depressed. When you accept that you are depressed, you start to heal. You start your healing journey. You already did start it. Nothing's linear. You'll realize things that, like, oh my God, I made that decision. You know, and as much as it feels like you're living in depression 24/7, you're not. You're only depressed when you're aware of the depression. You know, when you're sat watching a film or playing a video game or sleeping or eating, you're not depressed. You can be depressed during those things, but it's only when you're aware of it. Okay? So why don't you change that awareness to become, I am depressed, and this is my body, my mind, and my soul indicating to me that I need to do something about that. And by the way, you don't need to do anything. Stay depressed if you want. Be depressed for the rest of your life. It's up to you. But the second that you admit that you are depressed to yourself, not anyone else, doesn't matter. You can just say it in a room. You can just write it down. And when you start going towards figuring out why you are depressed, you are already healing. Already healing, man. And you will be grateful for the depression, for showing you the way to yourself, for showing you what was in your way. Depression doesn't define your entire being. It is one part of life. It's one part. It's one mode of being. There are infinite other modes of being. This is just one. And yeah, it sucks. It's horrible. It's shit. It's the worst thing on earth. But it can become the best thing on earth because it guides you exactly where you need to go. Do you get it? It's a sign. It's a neon sign. It's an indicator going, hello, body, mind, soul, got this thing. Look at me. Hello. Hello. You can ignore it. You can numb it with medication, drugs, alcohol. You can talk about it endlessly to people. And the thing I've noticed is when my friends come to me for help and they talk to me about what's going on in their lives and I give them advice, majority of the time they don't take that advice. And the next time I see them, they tell me the exact same things. And the next, and the next, and the next. And it's like, well, dude, then you're choosing to be depressed. I'm telling you what to do. I'm telling you, it might not be the thing for you, but I'm telling you what worked for me. And I've been through the exact thing that you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. And this is what helped me. Oh no, but you don't understand, there's this thing and this person's doing this. Stop! No one's doing anything. You're doing it to yourself. No one. Just forget everyone. Okay? Forget them. The only person who is making your reality depressed is you. Stop judging yourself for that, but start doing something about it. You can change your reality. Stop procrastinating. Stop escaping it. Just accept it and go, this could potentially change my entire life for the better. I have this thing, it exists, other people have it, yet it is a unique experience to ourselves. I need to go towards it. Go towards that thing. See what happens. Nama fucking stay.